everyone, welcome to this beautiful space today. I'm joined here with the beautiful and talented artist, Sarazen Brooks. It's so just wonderful to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm very, very passionate about what I'm doing. I'm always excited to share it with people and talk about my story.
Well, I'm really excited because today you are showcasing your Infinite Universe collection, and we want to dive right in to share with all of you what the inspiration is behind this. But I want to start by going back because we've gotten to know each other over the course of our beautiful time together, and when you were 5 years old, something hit you. That moment kind of hit you with where you wanted to go creatively.
Yeah, I've always had the deep inner knowing that I was going to be an artist, but my inspiration actually to paint the universe did start when I was 5 also. I can remember it as clear as day. I was actually in kindergarten, and we had astronauts come to our school, and we got to have the strawberry space ice cream, and I thought it was the most amazing thing, and they're explaining what they do for a living, and it just struck me so amazing that you could actually go into space, and have the ice cream also. So I actually told my mom, I know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I want to be an astronaut, and I want to go into the sky and see space. And she said, no, that's way too far. You have to stay closer to home. And the only other interest that I had in school at all was art. So I actually ended up kind of meeting her halfway, and I ended up exploring the universe. And I studied it my whole life, and when I began painting, I didn't always paint the universe. Mm-hmm. I actually started out doing realism, and that's what I was classically trained in by a very famous Canadian mentor, James Picard, who's a revolutionary artist. Mm-hmm. And the realism lost its charm for me very quick, and at the time I was studying avidly about the universe, and every single day and night, and it just struck me as so odd that it's not a topic that's really touched on much past the age of adolescence and in high school. You kind of hear about it, and you hear little mentions about it,
but it's not explored.
No, it's people's general knowledge of just what's happening out in space, or the potential and the capabilities. It's pretty much a zero. And then maybe one day you hear on the news, oh, there's a meteor shower tonight, so you're like, oh yeah, there's sky, there's stuff out there.
Oh wait, I remember it exists.
Yeah, so I had the idea to do a universe painting, and I sat and I did the first one.
And at that point, when was that?
This was my 3rd year of painting, so mm-hmm. I think it was 2011.
Yeah.
So I've been doing realism only realism until then.
Yeah.
I hadn't tried anything else, and it was in oils. It took me 90 hours.
Wow, 90 hours.
Very long time.
How does that even bring us all through that process? What was that like for you?
Well, it's oil painting, so it takes a very long time to dry, which is part of it. I work on that one did too. Also the blue nebula right behind you. That's
so beautiful.
That's actually 93 million light years away. That one. If you can fathom the distance about that. But I did the first one, and I completed it. And I sat back and I named it Incomprehensible, because that was exactly the feeling that I got from it. And you know what? I think that's part of the reason why people don't familiarize themselves more with what's going on, because it is so incomprehensible for most people. But I think it's vitally important to expand your mind daily and to ponder things that are so much greater than yourself, because we live in a world that most of your time is spent on your phone this close to you. You never really extend your vision far past what you can see and wonder how things actually work.
Yeah.
So that's basically what really motivated me to do these universe paintings. After that is I discovered, maybe if I do this big series that it'll actually spark a conversation with people, to spark an interest. I have always wondered how that worked. Or, I wonder what Venus is like, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's good to wonder.
Well, it's interesting too, because I know you as a person, but even your pieces, each and every piece, you can feel that energy that exudes that I know you have. But when people buy your paintings, they might not necessarily know the personal Sarazen, but they're actually getting your energy put into each and every piece.
Well, actually, that's not true, because almost every person that I've sold a painting to has kind of remained in my life quite a bit. It's very interesting. I think I kind of have that impact on people. Yeah.
That's an interesting connection. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think with art in general, I mean, depending on you know, what exactly that you're buying, but typically to buy an original painting, you kind of have to fall in love with the artist, you know, and get to know them and get like acquainted with them. So I think that when you do start collecting art, that's why people will collect from certain artists, because they have that like relationship and that, you know, camaraderie between the two of them, and they just really love what they do, and they love the art as well, and the energy that comes off of it, like what you said.
Well, like that's kind of what I was touching more on, is for people, you know, the people that buy it obviously are falling in love with you, falling in love with your pieces, but for people that say just view the art, they can still feel that energy coming off of the painting.
Well, and some of them have a lot of energy. That one, for example, the big abstract one. So I'll kind of fill you in on why I have so many different styles, especially of the universe. Even the moons there, those are the moons of Jupiter, Jupiter Queens. That's Ceres, Europa, and Callisto. And the idea for that actually came from a dream. I woke up one morning and I had the names ringing through my head, and I didn't know that they all were moons of Jupiter, and I ended up Googling it and they were, but I had this vision of doing them with pumice stone so that they were very textured like the moon.
Yes.
And I also wanted, I pictured them in the dream. They were all kind of like iridescent, all almost the same color, but it was very confusing to me when I Googled them because they were all different colors. But that one, the big abstract one, that one, I say that one has a lot of energy coming off of it, because for that particular style, that's another version of an abstract universe. I actually put powdered quartz additive into the painting, which is extremely hard to find. I want to actually start painting with gold coming up soon, like real gold. But the powdered quartz has a lot of vibration and energy that comes off of it in itself. Now, for these ones, basically, the reason why they're all so different is when I very first had that idea after finishing the first painting that took 90 hours.
Yeah.
I thought in my head, you know, I want to paint the universe in every type of form and variation and infinite possibilities that there are, because the universe is infinite and it wants to perceive itself in an infinite amount of experiences. You know, it doesn't exist in one solid form. So I basically wanted to have fun with it. I went out and I bought every single type of gel and gloss and
everything,
and I had no idea how to use them. I had no idea. I was trained in oil.
Yeah.
Literally. So this one actually took 3 years because I had no idea what I was doing, and I've never painted with pumice before, but I had this incredible idea that, you know, maybe if I like stacked the pumice up there, I could actually like shape it like a mold of the universe to make it more 3D. And it actually worked.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was trial and error. And I mean, it still is. So the beauty of the series is it never will end, just like the universe. It's going to continue on forever. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
I'm very excited. I mean, each and every piece has, you know, its own life form, essentially. And you've been inspired in so many ways. Like you said, you know, for instance, sometimes they come to you in dreams.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come to you in visions. Like what other kinds of sort of inspirations do you find yourself feeling?
Honestly, it's really interesting. I feel like it comes to me from so many different directions. It's kind of hard to pinpoint. I mean, you know, one day I'll just be thinking a thought, and all of a sudden I'll be compelled to go into Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'll go into Instagram, and suddenly I follow all these like astrophysicists and NASA and all these astrophotography is something I've just started following as well. And then suddenly, like, the ideal image will appear to me that will give me like new inspiration.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a mixture between timing and then just I feel like the universe kind of talks to me in different ways. So dreams is a big one of them. You know, even now, like, people know how passionate I am about the universe, so I even have people sending me stuff. So yeah, I can't really answer that question because I feel like I can never turn my brain off. So I feel like it's always kind of coming.
Well, that is the answer right there.
Yeah,
you're always open.
That's true. I mean, I probably mostly from dreams, though.
Yeah.
Probably mostly from dreams.
And when you get your inspiration or your vision, do you just start with sort of a seed and allow it to kind of transform on the canvas, or do you kind of have your ends in mind?
I usually pretty much already know what a painting looks like exactly before I finish it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can actually just look at the paint on the palette and I know how beautiful it's going to be.
Yeah.
Which kind of sounds weird. I mean, I don't know if people writing music have the same feeling. I imagine probably they do. But, you know, I am, as I'm, you know, advancing in my career and I'm learning how to let go a little bit more. When I was younger, you know, and I was doing this very controlled realism, I never knew how to embrace my mistakes and to own it. But now I've realized that if you can actually let go to the point to embrace the flaws, you can actually create a lot more tremendous painting. It's kind of like stepping out of your own way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's in those moments that you really let go and the creativity is just like flowing through you. Like I feel like I can actually see the universe coming out of my fingertips and it's amazing.
That is like, it sounds like just some total trip you go on when you're creating.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's when I feel the happiest, the most comfortable, you know, and I wish that everybody in life was able to find that. And, you know, it just, I feel like at home when I'm creating and painting, I'm not thinking about anything else. It's like, it's basically being in like one complete blissful meditative state. I mean, keep in mind I have stressful painting days too.
Totally.
Where when you're knocking over paint or you drip your brush in your coffee, like.
Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, you know, for those people at home who maybe don't know what the process is or you have your own individual way, as any artist does, take us through the technical process of what goes into actually, like, creating these pieces.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of have like a little bit of like ADD and OCD, so sometimes half the battle is just getting me like meticulously situated where all my stuff is in the right spots and I have coffee and I have water and like I have the fan on but like not too loud and the right song on. So I mean, I can be pretty finicky sometimes. I've gotten a little bit better at kind of like just letting go at that and planning. It really is different for depending on the type of style that I'm doing. Some of them require much more setup and takedown. The one that I'm going to be creating today is it's done, I invented a technique using water bottles and a ton of different mediums, so that one's actually pretty labor intensive to get the paint all mixed up in there. It's actually quite exhausting. I usually sleep for at least 2 days after because I'm just so physically tired. But I've started doing those ones actually. Those ones I actually painted using sponges. Wow. So that's, which I love. Who would have thought sponges of all things? But that one's actually pretty easy to just walk right into it and you just put some paint on your palette and then you just kind of are up and running and then if you want to finish you can just walk away. These ones I actually have to do start to scratch all in one blow. You can't go and come back to them later because it doesn't have the same effect. It doesn't like swirl and spiral into there. They all have to dry at the same time. And then this one actually was done with sponges also. Sponges and brushes. And it actually, I was surprised. I had a lot more control over it than I thought I would. But I have it down to a science. I mean, and then the stars are always done with brushes as well. But yeah, typically a lot of different colors go into this. Most of the time I spend that actually goes into a piece is spent thinking about it.
Yeah, well that's what I was going to say.
The painting time is actually much shorter.
There's so much energy that you exude into each and every piece when you're working on it. I mean, how are you able to energetically prepare yourself to be in that space?
I have to have music. I have to have music, loud music. And that's also probably why it takes me a little bit longer because I dance the entire time when I'm painting, typically most of the time. Maybe not for like the fine detail because that would be a little bit challenging, but I probably have done that before.
I can picture you doing that.
yeah. I mean, I like to have fun with it. And yeah, energetically, you know, it actually kind of like is a loop where it feeds back into me. So, and especially when you're having like a phenomenal painting day and like I said, the universe just feels like it's throwing through you because energetically it just kind of fuels you. It just kind of goes back into you. I find usually if I'm struggling or I'm trying to force something, that's especially when I get tired because you're like doing a losing battle. It's kind of like go into the direction your energy is moving in the best.
Well, it's interesting that you aptly called it infinite
The Infinite Universe series.
Yes, because the infinite sign is just like, it always continues.
Yeah, it just recycles. And I mean, that is the way the universe works. Energy is never created or destroyed. It always exists. It just changes forms and shapes and transmutes into something else. So this is actually the Orion Nebula. And I don't know what happened. I just became obsessed with it all of a sudden. This is actually Orion the Second, because the first one I did, which is incredible also, I sold. It's now to one of my very wonderful buyers in Mexico. I loved it so much. I had actually started this prior, and this is actually so funny. The original Orion, I didn't actually realize it was Orion until after it was already done and sold. I just had a random photo that I completely changed the colors and everything from. I didn't stick with it, but I sold it, and then I realized, oh, I've already painted him twice, but I just had this absolute obsession with Orion, even when I see Orion in the sky, and I mean in this painting in particular. It's very interesting to stare at it and meditate on it, because I see so many different faces in it. Like, there's a face right there, I see another face here, I see a face looking out this way and this way, so people see different things in it. And you kind of, my uncle said something very poignant to me. He said, you know, people that relate to your art, the ones that relate to it, it's because they're relating to something that they see inside themselves already. And the ones that don't understand it, it's just something that they haven't uncovered yet. And I guess you could say that about anything.
Totally. Well, I believe, you know, we are a direct reflection of our own perception.
Absolutely.
So it's mirroring that and seeing that in all things.
Yeah, absolutely. So people see different things in there. It's really fun to see people's reactions to them.
I can't even imagine what you have to share. Like, when you have shows, and you have a lot of shows, you're very active, you're very interactive, I find, with the community that follows your art.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I just have such a bond with anybody that is also interested in the universe, because it's honestly one of my favorite subjects, and pretty much is. But up until really just the last couple of years, it kind of wasn't cool to be interested in the universe. It wasn't really hip, wasn't really interesting. But you see all of a sudden at like festivals and even in advertising, like the universe is being used everywhere now. And I mean, it's so beautiful. I don't know how you can't.
Yeah.
But honestly, even just people that have no knowledge but just want to talk about it, I love talking to.
Well, that's the thing. I think that there has been a shift in our society. As far as anything sort of ethereal, and you know, people are becoming more conscious of what is out there, and their awareness is allowing for things like this to become more mainstream.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, and probably on a more serious note, the reason why I really pursued this was it struck me as I was studying. It struck me as so odd that it's not something that's educated, because really, in reality, it's the only reason that we do exist. We owe all of our existence to the universe, and we have no idea why we're actually here. So it struck me as odd that we're not actually actively all studying this as a whole, because it's going to be the only thing that is critical for our long-term survival. We could get hit by a meteor and die overnight, another ice age, or just get wiped out entirely. We have no understanding, but yet we will fuel the same war over and over and over again. We'll keep fighting each other on repeat. It's the definition of insanity. We wonder why. You know, we have so many world problems, why we're starving, why we're using fossil fuels, why we're having like crazy stuff happen with the weather. I mean, the nuclear reactor is still melting down. We haven't done anything about that. It's the definition of being an ostrich with your head in the sand.
Basically,
like, our whole oceans could get wiped out. Let's just not talk about it. But, you know, I strongly feel that if collectively as a whole, that we cared more, and we actually did start, you know, pondering things like the universe, or like our actions, like what we're doing to the planet, that we actually would have an infinite survival, just like the universe, live forever.
Well, for sure, and that's the thing. It's about being curious. It's keeping those topics continually being discussed.
The word that comes to my head is like childlike wonder.
Yes.
You know, that
always staying inquisitive.
That childlike amazement, you know. It's really interesting. I wonder though, I do wonder what is going to happen. Like, what do you think the first changes would be if people all started wondering, like, in their behavior patterns, like what you do every day? You know, a question that I ask myself is like because every single thing that you do has a reaction.
Yeah.
You know, all of your actions matter, and they all set off like a series of events, you know? So just recently I've become incredibly conscious of just like how I'm throwing away garbage, and I mean, even with paint supplies and stuff like that, you know, but so many people, I lived in the States for a year, and I lived in Arizona, which is a beautiful place, but for example, there was no recycling.
Mm-hmm.
It was impossible to recycle, and stuff like. So I literally just had to but in the desert it's so hot, you literally have 100 bottles of water that day. But the way that we're living, it's just not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's so beautiful that, you know, you're trying to accomplish through your artwork, you know, a conscious collective.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that have all kind of come out from so many parts of the world to admire what you're doing, but they resonate with you as a person.
Yeah.
How does that feel when you hear all the people that just, you know, express their love for what you're doing? Well,
you know, it feels good now that I've finally started to find my voice. When I've, you know, the last 8 years, basically, since I was born, I knew I had a message. I just didn't know what it was, and I knew I had a big voice, and I knew I wanted to reach a lot of people, but I had no idea what exactly it was that I had to say. And then, you know, just now that I've been doing this for so long, I finally started to realize the power of spoken word. Initially, I just thought, well, I'm just going to do these beautiful paintings and they'll speak for themselves. They'll get the message without me telling it. But then I realized, just very recently, no, actually verbally communicating this is vital to understanding why I've created them and why I love it so much and why I'm like so enthralled with the universe. So now that I'm actually being able to communicate my message to people, now the love is like being received exponentially, and it's amazing. I'm surprised. I shouldn't say I'm surprised, but I'm a little bit surprised with how many people it resonates with. It's a lot more than I think.
Yeah.
But I think probably the most rewarding thing, I mean, I get, you know, I've done a lot of shows, and I get, oh, the universe, like people, it almost dawns on them like, oh, that thing exists.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. But it's interesting because by the end of the conversation, I know that I made a difference in their thinking. And, you know, whether they think about it for a month or two, I know that I can see like the wheels in their head turning, and they're like, you know what, maybe I should kind of think about things more often, you know? Because most people, I mean, you wake up every day, we're creatures of habit. You have a routine, you go to your job, and you drive to work, and, you know, it's very monotonous. You know, there's not much spontaneity or spark of creativity that, you know, inspires them to do something new and do something different and to find their favorite colors and to find their favorite tastes and smells. But I think that passion, that inquisitiveness is very, very important. I mean,
vital.
It's vital. You know, I bet, you know, so crucial actually. I was not on the path of becoming a universe artist my whole life. I got talked out of going to art school as I was coming out of high school, and I was told I wanted to be an artist. I didn't want to have like a job or, you know, to be like a designer or anything like that. And I was told, you know, you'll never make any money and you'll be starving. And I actually kind of believed that at the time. So I dropped out of. So I went into to college, and I studied kinesiology for 4 years, and I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. It got to the point I was about to apply to medical school, and my ex-boyfriend at the time had been urging me to watch this movie Basket, and I watched it, and I was so floored by it. I dropped out of school the next day. And I didn't tell my mom, but I got her to buy me a set of art supplies, and I did my first painting over the month, and after that it was game over. But I was so unfulfilled with what my future was going to be at the time. It was like killing a part of me, not having that spontaneity. And in hindsight, I made the very best decision I ever possibly could. So I encourage people to do that for themselves, because your life will change. You get flooded with so much more love and satisfaction. It is hard at the beginning, but you know, really, you only have the life that you're currently having, and if it's not spent doing something that excites you, it's not worth it.
It's totally feel that. I feel that from you. Sarazen, you are a perfect example of when you hear your calling, you have to answer it.
Well, absolutely. And you know what? Think about how many gifts that wouldn't be delivered to the world if people didn't follow that calling. Like, what if Mozart just didn't decide to compose? You know, that we would be robbed of that. So I'm starting to realize that everybody needs to deliver whatever their gift is. It's very important.
Well, thank you so much. I am just so visually stimulated, but I also love sharing good vibes with you always.
Thank you.
And I'm sure the viewers at home are very much looking forward to you putting on yet another amazing show today. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm very